Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Bass. Michael, so it's just you and me now. And what
All
we
right, chatting, eh? Cool.
yes, about 10 minutes before we get to concluding the event by
Yeah.
thanking various people. Michael and I had some themes, I think, that we took as a key takeaways from those presentations. So wonder if you want to start with a couple of themes that we've been talking about today.
Sure. So one of the things that I think was really brought out in the first presentation by Tiffany was this notion of being able to scaffold students into the notion of feedback. So there's a literacy associated with that, which we can't expect our students to naturally understand. So they don't necessarily give feedback to other students. They need to be, in a sense, encouraged, taught, cajoled in some cases. So there's a literacy we need to be able to give to them. What do you reckon, Chie?
Yeah, no, I thought that was one of the key themes as well today. They all had some issues that they wanted to solve. And that issue was largely around how peers would interact. And of course, feedback is at the heart of those interactions. And so they kind of went out to look for those solutions. And obviously, this FeedbackFruit provided different ways in doing that. But it's that idea of doing it well and explicitly teaching students as to how feedback, interaction, or that literacy can be developed. And that Tiffany's presentation around the DUTAC project of the chaining is based exactly on that notion. But also Joe from Monash University and Fiona from Griffith University, both are teaching in the first year. And they both talked about the notion of, especially in the first year students, they need to be really guided in terms of interacting with the students because they also came with the fear.
I think there's a place in which our teachers, our lecturers can demonstrate that practice to provide examples of how they might do that. Just low level examples, but just to encourage students how to do that, whether that's through a little video or they might put in associated with it or something like that. It's just a nice way to introduce that concept to the students. So, okay, when you're giving feedback, be kind, don't offer suggestions as to how you might improve and things like that, or things that I might have found out about this when I was doing it. So trying to get students to personalize their responses rather than taking the stance of no, this is no good kind of thing. So it's about treating people as humans. It's about being kind and things like that. So there is this notion that we can encourage our students in this regard.
And the other thing I think, Michael, that came through those conversations was that idea of we really want students to be engaging with the real world. So the idea of employability skill sets. And I think that's critical, even within this pandemic climate that we're in now. Feedback, it is everywhere, but it's more of a skill set to navigate through what is to be digested and how we engage with those kind of information and feedback that's out there. So I think that's one of the things that were coming from most of the presentations today.
And an extension to that too is that this is a tool within an ecology of tools. And when they get out into the workforce, similarly, they're not going to just be using a tool. They're going to be using multiple tools within their professional experience. And so it's part of that scaffolding of activities that we do. And I think Jess from Monash gave a great example of that within her presentation of how she went across different tools and embedded FeedbackFruits into the activities associated with other activities she was doing. So it's that holistic notion that this is part of a suite, and it's part of an ecology of learning that and of work as we move out the other end of that.
I really like that term that you use, Michael, the ecology. It's kind of layered, it's interconnected, and it's multifaceted. And I think that is a good segue in talking about this other idea. I think that was a theme coming out of those discussions, which is to do with collaboration. because we integrate different tools, even within FeedbackFruit, they offer various types of active learning tools. It's that idea that you need to reach out to other people to do that. And I think Kirsten and Omid from Victoria University talked about how learning designers were contributing to designing that ecology of both pedagogy but also technology, and working within the institution but also across institutions. In the case of MITx coming in to do the innovation project, and we are part of this consortium so we can leverage off across institutions, but also across industries. FeedbackFruits being a partnership in this regard.
Yeah. I mean, there's multiple areas in which this reaches into, of course. I mean, there's obviously the research area, of course, and academic staff are really interested to be able to use, obviously their data, but also to tie that in with what other academics are doing across the sector at one level. But there's also the level in which institutions that are thinking of entering some tool like this can learn from other institutions. Well, what was the impact factor that on our students? And so the more we can share this information across the community of those using the tool, the more we have resources at our disposal to, when I have to go to my Deputy Vice Chancellor and say, look, we need to put this tool in place. Well, here's the evidence. It's not all from us, but here's evidence from Monash, from Deakin, from MIT. Here's the evidence that this tool is actually making a difference in students' lives. And that's not just about qualitative feedback, students saying, oh, that was a really nice tool and I really enjoyed that experience, but it's actually about being able to demonstrate the learning outcomes and being able to demonstrate that there's the students who are undertaking these activities are actually progressing more quickly, better, I suppose, through their studies than those who don't use those tools. Now, that's obviously a difficult concept to generate, but with a holistic notion across a number of institutions, I'm sure there's enough brains within these rooms, to actually start to figure out how we can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of hinted this in the opening that I did, this idea that we are, especially the higher education sector, hugely impacted financially. And we need to be working smarter, leveraging off various types of collaborations and partnerships. And I really think that the edutech sector can do a lot with us higher education sector. And I think this is a good example of us doing it in that kind of sense. And Griffith, Deakin, Monash, Victoria University, MITx, I think we're becoming a sort of a think tank, but in their words, of course, it's do tank. It's an interesting idea.
Do think the tank, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then just one final thought before I go to thank the very quick thank yous, is that that notion of the way we can scaffold AI into this as well, and being able to give the students this kind of stepping stone through their assessment. So it's not just waiting for the academic to get back to them on these basic principles. That's fantastic. I think that's there's some real thought leadership in the sector in this coming out through this tool.
Thanks, Michael. Would you like to do the honor of thanking everyone? Yeah,
look, there's so many people to thank. We've been planning this for a while. A couple of months ago, Chie and I got together at an ACODE meeting in Wellington because we'd been planning Griffith had been planning a session with FeedbackFruits, and I found out that Chie had been planning a session too, and we thought, oh wow, well maybe we should just do this together. And so that's been the culmination of many months of thinking, and we've had some great people working behind us. I mean, Monica's done a great job, who works down at Deakin there with Chie, and that's pulling this stuff together for us. I mean, Chie and I just come in at the last minute and kind of, float our ideas, but there's a heck of a lot of work that goes in behind the scene with Sheila and Lenka and Joan, with Joe. And look, you've done a great job, guys, to pull this together, and it's been a great day, a great afternoon. And of course, thank you to our speakers from all over the world, really. We thank you for your participation and for your great insights into the use of this tool. And so with that, I'm going to hand over to Lenka and Sheila to finish us off with some general Q&A session. Thank you.